It's the voice of the one and only DJ Scream, letting you know that you are now in tune to the Casual Flex, where culture meets sports and casuals are welcome. Now here's your host, Phillip Dukes.
Yo, welcome to a very special holiday edition of the Casual Flex. I am your host, Phillip Dukes, aka Dukes the Scoop. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram at Dukes the Scoop. Also, make sure you go like and subscribe. If you're watching the content, you enjoy it, tell a friend and make sure let's get these subscribers up to 2,000. We're on the road to 2,000. We're doing really well right now. Thank you for everybody for helping us be successful as we have been in such a short period of time. But make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and tell a friend to tell a friend. All right, so over the weekend, I'm talking to family, a lot of Georgia fans, a lot of Bama fans, Tennessee fans, everybody who's kind of feeling up about where they are in the SEC. And I started thinking to myself, next year for Christmas, I would love to go talk some trash about Auburn. How could I do that? So it led me to think, how can Auburn get back into 10-win range in 2023? What has to happen? And when I thought about that, I said, I think it's actually possible. We've seen things like this before. And what would have to go right for Auburn in order for them to win 10 wins in 2023? Well, the offense has to be lights out. And what do you mean? So in order for Auburn to get back to where they need to be, they have to take advantage of the fact that no one has seen this iteration of Auburn's offense. There isn't going to be a previous year's film to go look at when you think about Auburn. You take Hugh Freeze, who brings in a well-established offensive mind, and Philip Montgomery from Tulsa, and you blend those guys together and you see what you get. Why I think that really bodes well for Auburn is that you can't go get film on Philip Montgomery and Hugh Freeze together, or should I say Philip Montgomery's offense with a Hugh Freeze influence. So we know how Hugh Freeze's offense looks by itself. We know how Philip Montgomery's offense looks without Hugh Freeze. But do we know how it looks with those two together? Two of the greatest offensive minds in college football, getting in the lab, cooking something up, and figuring out what works for the personnel they have. The next thing I think that's going to really have an impact on how Auburn does, and it's a no-brainer, is quarterback play. Does Robbie Ashford win the job? If he does, if they can figure out how to get some passing, how to make Robbie Ashford a true dual threat, I think Auburn can do some serious damage in 2023. You got to think, Robbie Ashford is probably the most athletic starting quarterback returning in the SEC. Now, does he beat out whoever comes in? We don't know, but all I can talk about is what we have right now, and that's Robbie Ashford. If Robbie Ashford can develop as a passer, he probably is the premier dual threat quarterback in the SEC. Anthony Richardson is gone. And we looked at all the potential that Anthony Richardson has and all the tools he has, the 4.4 speed, the cannon for arm. But when it comes down to it, it always boils down to how comfortable somebody is pulling the trigger in an offense. So that same hybrid Montgomery Freeze offense that I was talking about before, if Ashford can feel comfortable in that offense and allow his natural talents to come out, I think that's a very good, very tasty recipe for success for the Auburn Tigers, and something that'll have me being able to brag a little bit this time next year. The next thing will have to be offensive line play. You got to get the play up front. So what Hugh Freeze is doing, Brother Hugh, as they say, I call him Hugh Pop. Hugh Pop. What Hugh Pop is doing on a recruiting trail in the trenches right now, that is the type of recruiting that would allow Auburn to be instantly relevant in the SEC. Why? He's building it from the trenches. You go get 2 starting caliber offensive tackles ASAP. Too tall Miller. Come back. Spin the block. You got to go get Icy Wade, Dylan Wade from Tulsa. Now you got bookends. Now you can fill in the interior portion of the offensive line, which I think is something that's been missing in Auburn for a while, which is being able to say, hey, you know what? We've got guys that won't get bullied at the point of attack. Jeremiah Wright, love him. He gave that anger, that tenacity, that controlled aggression. He was the nastiest offensive lineman that Auburn had, and now you take 2 guys, put them on the outside of them. If you can find the center and figure out whether you want to have left or right guard, man, Hugh Pock, you got yourself something, brother. And that's something that Auburn hasn't had in a while. Now you got the ability to lean. And what I did see from Auburn as the season wound down under Coach Cadillac was the emphasis on winning the line of scrimmage and saying, we need 2 or 3 yards. We're not putting this ball in the air. And you saw Auburn continually be successful over the last 4 games of the season. Not so much in the Alabama game, but Mississippi State should have been a win. The other 2 were wins. And from that perspective, it looks like Auburn was already taking on that attitude. So by being able to pull in Brother Hugh, aka Hugh Freeze, and his recruiting prowess and the emphasis that has been placed upon getting ready now offensive tackles, and he's not done. You're going to get more guys that are ready to play now. And I think that by rebuilding the offensive line with ready-made guys, that's going to be another way that Auburn can have me sitting pretty next year around Christmas time when it's time for me to talk some trash. I think another real important thing is going to be, and I kind of touched on it a little bit, but Auburn has to win the portal. Auburn has to be active in the portal to get guys who are ready to come in and play right now. And I think they've already started along that path. You go in, find you a linebacker, maybe find you an edge rusher. You got plenty of DBs. Maybe an impact wide receiver. You already got another move tight end. You got the return of Landon King. You got Chick Dawson coming back. I mean, Auburn has a lot of pieces. And I think right now, if Hugh Freeze can play his cards right, kind of go into that puppet master role where you say, you know what, I don't need everything, but it's going to be very important to get the right pieces in the right places. If Hugh Freeze can figure out how to kind of make that orchestra, make that band play together with having strong members in certain places, and that you may get a little more here than you need from there, along with a lot of guys that you already have returning who may not have been put in the position to succeed the most for them individually. I think Auburn can be, let me say this, that's how Auburn can be a 10-win team next year. But if anybody can do it, hey, Brother Freeze, you got my vote. So that leads me into my next segment. And I was thinking about this over the weekend also. Who are the top 5 most important returning Auburn players going into 2023? Number 1 on my list, and this is my list. It may not be like most important to everybody, but this is how I see it. Dylan Brooks. Right now, Auburn doesn't have any edge rushers. The only returning guy is Dylan Brooks. Having to replace a guy like Derek Hall is absolutely a tall task for anybody. But in order for Auburn to be successful, you have to be able to get after the passer. When you've got offensive tackles at schools like Georgia, like a Broderick Jones or Marius Mims, you go to whatever school, Bama, you go down to Florida, who's been recruiting at a really high level when it comes to portal offensive linemen. LSU, Brian Kelly is going to keep an offensive line. You got to have somebody, especially in Ron Roberts' defense, which is it's just kind of like either a 3-3-5 or a 4-2-5. The fourth guy along that defensive line is usually somebody who can get to the passer. set the edge, and get to the passer, depending on what side. On that weak side, you want somebody who can bend the corner. Dillon Brooks has all of the physical tools. He has to put it together. He's been in Auburn 2 years now. He's gotten a little stronger. He still looks a little bit lean. This offseason is going to be huge for him. If Dillon Brooks can figure out how to make that next leap in his development, it totally transforms Auburn's defensive line from where they are now into where they can be next fall. The weight room is going to have to be serious. The diet, the attitude. And even if he's not starting next year, you grab somebody else out of the portal, you still have to have solid and quality rotational pieces in order for Auburn to be successful and to get after the passer. You can't just have one guy. Being able to rotate that guy, being able to kind of mix up your pace as far as what the edge rush is, an array of moves coming from two different people. I think if Dillon Brooks can turn himself into a formidable, not to say he had a bad year, but for him to take that next jump in his development, I think if that happens, super, super, super good for Auburn and good on him as well. Number 2, my second most important player returning for Auburn this year has to be the Frenchman, Jeffrey Ember, 6'8", 300 pounds, huge, man of a man. When we saw him being aggressive last year towards the end of the season, it kind of gave you like that, hey, yeah, this guy's a player. If he can stay healthy and take that next step in his development, it gives you somebody. First of all, he's a first guy off the bus type of guy. Super big stature, really, really cool guy to be around, affable personality, but on that field, he's a totally different person. If he can take that next step in his development, provide a piece to help you more in the mold of a Kobe Wooden, except for he's just bigger. Kobe Wooden was a dog. You can play him you can play him all up and down the defensive line. Jeffrey Ember has some of that in him. You can play him at multiple positions. Having that Swiss Army knife along the defensive line is going to be so important. You can put him at the 0. You can put him at the 3, the 4, wherever you want to put him at. Jeffrey Ember can play. If you can get that development out of Jeffrey Ember, I think that's one of those things that actually allows Auburn to compete with the Georgias and the Bamas of the world, is having those 6'8", 300-pounders that are making an impact. So Jeffrey Ember is number 2 on my top 5 list of top returning, most important returning players for Auburn going into 2023. Number 3, none other than probably the most popular player on Auburn's team, Jarquez Hunter, running back out of Mississippi. Played second fiddle, but not even second fiddle. Played 1B to Tank Bigsby's 1A the last 2 years. Seems like every time he touched the ball, something great happened. But my biggest question for Hunter is, how does he set the tone when he's the guy? See, when Tank Bigsby was able to come out and set the tone, he was the left hook. Let's say the left hook is your best punch. Tank Bigsby was the left hook. He's what everybody was waiting on. You waited on the left hook. What you don't want is Tank Bigsby to bounce it. So you got the defense waiting on the hook, waiting on the hook, waiting on the hook. And then you see Hunter. And Hunter is hitting it right up the gut. So you're looking for somebody to bounce it. Here comes Hunter. And he's hitting the hole full speed. There isn't any hesitation. The patience, and he has patience, but Tank Bigsby kind of is one of those like a push running back where like to push the pocket, like to push the line a little bit, then take off. Hunter is just full speed ahead. Bow, gotta hit it. Did show patience with hitting the perimeter, but still two different types of running backs. So having that right cross when you're looking for the hook, it allowed Hunter to come in and do some things that we saw that were amazing. But I never, ever discounted the role that Tank Bigsby played in opening lanes for Hunter by allowing Hunter to be a change of pace back. Whether he was faster or stronger or whatever, it was still a change. And having guys that can have that type of change, and even though they may not have been too different as far as stature wise, weight and height, maybe Hunter's more condensely built. Both guys are super strong, but Hunter being a lead guy, Hunter being a left hook. When people are waiting and game planning for Hunter, how does he respond? I think that Hunter's ability to catch the football is going to be super big for Hugh Freeze in his offense. Phillip Montgomery or whoever. Freeze, Munt Freeze, however you want to call it. Hugh Pock and Philly Phil. Hugh Pock and Uncle Phil. That's what I call him. But yeah, for those two guys to be able to have a guy in the backfield, it's like a dream come true when you're picking up a new offense to have taking on a new job and having a guy like that as an incumbent. He's one of those guys you circle like, yeah, I like that. So I think Hunter being 1A for the first time in his career, how he responds to that is going to have a lot to do with how far Auburn goes in 2023. Number 4, Cam Riley. Cam Riley is probably the most physically gifted linebacker that Auburn has, and he probably was the same last year. And when I say physically gifted, he has the ability to play so much. He reminded me so much of my buddy Carlos Dansby in the fact that he's that long, leaner linebacker. He has enough in the hips to lay a hit. He runs really well, 6'4", 6'5". You can put him at a multitude of positions based on his ability to run. And we just didn't see him put it all the way together. Where was his head? Was the defense putting him in the position for him to win? Now we'll see this year. Can Riley put on a little weight? Can he get to the 230, 235 range where he can be an effective pass rusher and also still keep his speed where he can run around? I mean, when you look at Cam Riley, can he put on enough weight? And when I see him sometimes, I see a little bit of Quay Walker, the linebacker for the Green Bay Packers, where you got that long frame, but he was able to bulk up, put on great weight, muscular weight, and he was able to still keep his speed. If Cam Riley can do those type deals, do that type of thing as far as putting on that kind of weight, and also be successful as far as keeping his speed together, I think you got a really, really nasty linebacker. And at linebackers is position for need for Auburn right now. You lose Owen Pappoe, who was the senior member of the linebacker corps. You got Wesley Steiner, who played well in spaces. You've got you got Robert Woodyard, really not battle tested at all. So Cam Riley has been out there when the bullets were flying. He knows how to play, came out early, 13 tackles one game, So if he can take that next step, and these are, and everybody I'm naming are guys that have to step up in order for Auburn to get back to where Auburn has been previously. Like not even for a 10-win season, but for an 8-9-win season. These are guys that have to play for Auburn. You cannot get a whole team out of the portal. You can get pieces. You can get guys. You can get players. But you cannot get a whole team out of the portal. So Cam Riley developing in a manner where he could become at least one of your top 3 linebackers, really preferably top 2. But even having that third, and it reminds me of when Chandler Wooten was the third linebacker behind Pappoe and McClain. And more so even when it was KJ Britt playing a lot with Zacoby McClain when Pappoe was hurt. Pappoe, however it went. You had 3 guys who could play, and it really, really helped Auburn out based on situations, also being able to give each other a breather. So Cam Riley taking that next step, I would love for him to be the number 1 linebacker because how physically imposing he is, the type of things that he can do. If he can rush the passer, he would never have to leave the field unless you wanted him to. And him being on the field would not tip you off to what was coming for the defense. A lot of times you see situational pass rushers come in, and that, you know what, this guy's probably is 9 times out of 10. I know he doesn't cover well, so he's going to rush the passer. And if they do drop him in the coverage, they're going to be at disadvantage. I'm going to hit that back. By being able to have a guy like Cam Riley who can rush the passer or he can drop back in the coverage, you can put him up. You can put him at the edge. You can put him at outside linebacker. You can put him at the mic. There are a lot of places that you can put him in that defense. And Ron Roberts loves, from what I've seen, he loves to put guys or his more multiple players in different positions to be successful. So by having a guy like Cam Riley take that next step, I think it'll mean a lot for Auburn. And my fifth and final most important returning player for Auburn in 2023, none other than Robbie Ashford. What does Auburn do with Ashford? Who knows? But if Ashford comes out and wins this job after he held it down last year in probably one of the craziest seasons in Auburn history, if he wins this job or at least stays and makes himself maybe the backup, he's a guy that you got to have packages for because he can do so much. If Robbie Ashford could take the next step with his passing, I really, really think that Auburn can get into that 8-9 win conversation, maybe even 10, but definitely if those 5 things happen, you've got an 8 or 9 win Auburn team, hands down. I absolutely know it. So, so shout out to Hugh Freeze for what he's been doing already. You've seen the swagger out. You've seen the coaching hires, the way he handled it. He's doing things his way. People are excited. The coaches are excited. The fan base is excited. And I just think that right now, Brother Hugh, a.k.a. Hugh Pac, is doing this thing, and we'll see how it goes. If he can be successful in this portal and the second signing day, if you can land – Auburn didn't land a single guy last year on signing day in February. February signing day, 2022, Auburn did not land a single guy. Auburn was in it with a lot of guys in the transfer portal and didn't land a lot of guys, impact guys last year. I mean, you get a DJ James, and that's probably about the long and the short of it that I can think of that really came in and made an immediate impact. So Auburn, by being able to kind of attack that portal and getting some immediate impact guys, I think if Hugh Freeze can pull that off, along with the coaching staff, kudos. All right, let's slide on over to the A. Let's hit 85 North. Let's head back to Atlanta. Matter of fact, let's switch sports altogether. Trey Young. Rumors are out right now that say that Trey Young could be looking at a trade. Now, I haven't heard that from Trey Young himself, so I cannot say that that's true. But there is a rumor out. It's been reported by multiple reputable sites. So I thought it was worth looking at what would the Hawks look like without Trey Young. One, I'm starting to think that the Hawks are possibly contemplating going in a different direction. Why you say that? Well, Travis Slink just stepped down. And when Travis Slink came over, everybody was thinking that the Hawks were going to be setting themselves up to be Golden State South. You got Trae Young playing the role of Steph Curry. You got Kevin Huerter, who's no longer with the Hawks, who's actually playing excellent basketball in Sacramento, playing the role of Klay Thompson. You've got you had DeAndre Hunter, who could play, who could defend the 1 through the 5, a la Draymond Green, right? But after we saw the Hawks have a really successful playoff run, and it looked like the Hawks were being set up on an upward trajectory. Nate McMillan was the interim coach. He keeps the job, and it was everybody in Atlanta was happy. Magical playoff run. Trae Young doesn't get hurt. I think the Hawks beat the Bucks, but they don't. And if was a fifth, we'd all be drunks, and we aren't right now. So it went how it went. But could the Hawks win without Trae Young? I think that if Trae Young were to be traded, you would have to get a 2 guard that could shoot the lights out, provide some spacing, and really be a culture fit for what it takes to be a star in Atlanta. I think you can't trade him for you would have to get a 2, maybe a 5, maybe somebody who can help Atlanta to compete with the Joel Embiids and the Giannis's of the world. But I think with DeJounte Murray at the point, you give up a lot of capital for him. You can use Trey Young to get some of that capital back. I mean, if Murray's worth 3 first-round picks, how many picks is Trey Young worth? I think you could get 3 first-round picks and an immediate all-star caliber player for a Trey Young right now. If you were to trade him, let's see, who could you get? Would you trade Trey Young for Zach LaVine, maybe? How does Zach LaVine look in the Hawks uniform? He's been a guy that I always thought would have been really, really good next to Trey Young with his ability to shoot the ball and high flying at his ability to play above the rim. But how would that work? Would you trade Trey Young for maybe Pascal Siakam and I don't know, maybe Fred VanVleet package, maybe? Who knows? But what I do know is that Trey Young seems to not be happy in Atlanta, or is not as happy as he once was. We're starting to see some signs that maybe this may not work. And I have been probably one of the staunchest defenders of the Luka Doncic Trey Young trade that you can find in anywhere. And I still think Atlanta did the right thing for the city. But at what point does ending that relationship become the right thing for the city again? It looks stale right now. It was really stale before the Hawks got hot. If you really want to tell the truth about it, it got real stale before the Hawks got hot in that playoff run. I mean, they weren't playing good basketball. And it's like now it's just like the last 2 years have been more. If you take that playoff run from maybe after the All-Star break in 2021 to the Eastern Conference Finals, you subtract that run out of the past from now to the beginning of the 2020 season, 2020-21 season. The Hawks are about a 50-50 ball club. I mean, 500. They aren't really anything special outside of that run. You got a ton of talent. But how does Nate McMillan turn his team around? Is Nate McMillan the guy? There are so many questions about the Hawks right now that you start to think that maybe just start at the top. I don't have all the answers, but if you're a Hawks fan and you're looking and you're listening right now, who do you think the Hawks could get in order if the Hawks were to trade Trey Young? This is my question. Hawks fans, if the Hawks absolutely had to trade Trey Young, who do you think would be the best fit for the Hawks the way they are currently constructed? Drop a comment and let me know. Another question somebody asked me this weekend was, what's better, the NFL on Thanksgiving or the NBA on Christmas? In my opinion, it's got to be the NFL on Thanksgiving. First of all, the NFL football is still America's sport. They say baseball is America's game. That's America's pastime, aka past. Right now, football runs it. So first of all, by default, football is going to have more eyes on it than basketball right now. Okay, 2. Thanksgiving. Ain't no gifts on Thanksgiving. On Christmas Day is gifts being passed around, and any families that are fortunate enough to have this type of argument are probably passing out gifts, whether they're giving them or receiving them. So your focus is going to be split. There's nothing better than on Thanksgiving to go get your second or third plate and just go watch, I don't know, the Cowboys. You're going to see the Lions. You're going to see the Cowboys. And just go see what's going on in the game. Go get another plate, get a beer, get a drink. tell some jokes, go watch some football, see a highlight. Even when the games aren't good, you're going to have it on. It's just what you do. And then, and right now, the NBA just seems, it's just such a new world. And until the guys that are kind of more old school, the 80s babies can get into the new, like you got to think, James Harden is an OG already. James Harden is on the downward slope of his career right now. James Harden, the beard, we just got used to him being a superstar, and it's already almost over. So there's a new crop of new talent in the NBA that has to be that people have to get accustomed to and figure out the new game, like the gather. People like watching the game with my dad and seeing people with this gather step. My dad hollers out travel at least 30 times a game. And in the old rules, he would have been right. But, until, people figure out the gather, and it took me a while too. I'm like, bro, that's a walk. No, they changed the rule. That's a gather. I would have no chance going to LA Fitness and hooping right now. I call a walk every time, but I just think that the rule changes in basketball and the way we've seen the game being played, it's kind of like football, just a more entertaining sport right now. So if I had to answer that, I'm definitely taking football and Thanksgiving over the NBA and Christmas. Well, guys, that's my time for tonight. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. You got some questions for my next show? I got a really special guest. I don't know if I'm gonna drop it on Thursday. Yeah, I'll probably drop it on Thursday. So, and our schedule is usually Mondays and Thursdays. So make sure you're tuned in. Hey, tell a friend to tell a friend. Deuce the Scoop. Welcome to the Casual Flex. The Casual Flex is out.